This is the story of how an Ultrabook and a tablet fell in love. Well, hey there, good looking. You dog, take me! Oh man! Oh yeah! And behold, the Surface Pro 3. Microsoft says the Surface Pro 3 is the tablet that can replace your laptop. And that's nothing new. From the beginning, that's how they marketed the Surface line. But they have never come so close as this. Using this tablet, there is no doubt it is a Windows PC first and foremost. It comes in a number of different models, all with 4th gen Intel processors, at least 4 gigs of RAM, and full Windows 8.1. And it is without question one of the most beautifully designed Windows PCs ever made. But is that beautiful design enough to make it worth your while? That, my friends, is what we will determine. We'll talk about its use cases as a tablet and laptop replacement, but first, let's just check out the device itself. So, we actually have the Surface Pro itself and the optional type cover. Yes, optional. It's packaged pretty straightforward. You have the tablet itself, that was right there, and under that you have the Surface Pen, which is very nice, and we'll get to that, a setup guide, and a warranty booklet. It does come with a 1-year limited warranty, just so you know. And then in this compartment, we have the 2-part power brick, which also actually has a USB plug on it, so you can charge your phone or something, so that's nice. The type cover is pretty straightforward. It was just sitting there in the package, and it does have a little packet down here containing a little attachable loop meant to hold the pen. Now let's look at the Surface Pro's design. At 9.1 millimeters thick and weighing 1.76 pounds, it is both thinner and lighter than the previous Surface Pro 2. And that is impressive, considering they also increased the screen size to 12 inches. And while obviously heavier than most tablets, it's also lighter than most laptops. So I think it strikes a good balance. It's not really a problem to hold in your hand and use in a tablet, so that's nice to see. It retains that same surface angular design, and the exterior is the same magnesium finish that Microsoft calls Vapor MG. Ugh. Now that material has kind of a matte finish that makes it seem more utilitarian, like it's here for business, rather than the glossy exterior of other tablets that make them seem like they're more for entertainment and fun. At the top left of the device, we have a power button on top and a volume rocker on the side. And on the bottom is the magnetic connector for attaching the type cover. On the right side, there's a mini display port, full-sized USB 3.0 port, the magnetic charging port, and a micro SD slot supporting cards up to 128 gigabytes. It's right in there, you can hardly see it. I would have liked to see a full-size SD card slot there, and I can't really think of why it's not a full-sized SD slot. Maybe to slim down the profile, but like that much? Come on, Microsoft. Now, there are vents along the top and side, and Microsoft has apparently incorporated the fan a lot better this time around. It only powered up a couple times while I was using it when I restarted it to apply Windows updates and when I was playing games. So apparently it's very efficient. Speaking of games, as a side note, I did install Steam and I tried to download simple games so that it wouldn't stress the integrated graphics, but it wouldn't even let me download Hotline Miami or Bastion, and I was like, really? But then I watched a video of someone playing Team Fortress 2 on the last gen Surface Pro, so I'm like, what? And I downloaded the Stanley Parable, and that ran fine. Then the Surface got a Windows update, and I tried downloading Hotline Miami again, and that worked, and Borderlands 2 did as well, albeit at a very low quality, but it was definitely playable. Although it should be noted that this is the i5 8 gigabytes of RAM version. There's a couple more versions with the i3 and 4 gigabytes of RAM. Suffice to say, don't buy the Surface for gaming. It's not meant for that. I'm talking about full-on 3D PC gaming, just so you know, not like Windows Store mobile games type gaming, those are fine. Basically, if you've already got a Surface, you can probably find a way to make things work. It'll run 3D games if you've got time to kill in an airport or something, but just so we're clear, this is not a gaming machine. Anyways, let's move on. Microsoft has drastically increased the range of angles you can prop the kickstand at. Previously, there were only 2 angles. Now you can go anywhere from a closed position to all the way to almost flat, which is like, duh, why doesn't every kickstand do that? Included with the Surface is the Surface Pen, and they are calling it a pen, not a stylus, because it's actually a lot more like a pen. Microsoft purposely made it the same dimensions as a traditional ink-filled pen, so it's very natural to hold and use. When you're using it, it works like a mouse. You can't drag the screen with the pen, for instance. It supports hovering, which is really nice, as it basically serves as the mouse cursor when you're close to the screen, and then when you actually touch the screen, that's a mouse click. Now you have 2 buttons near your index finger. One is an eraser, and the other is a right-click button to bring up menus. You can also touch and hold with the pen to bring menus up. On top is the dedicated OneNote button. Click this button anytime, and it will open OneNote from wherever you are, including if the device is locked. Now that is definitely one of the coolest features of the Pro 3. You can have your tablet locked in your bag, something hits you, you grab your pen, you click it, and you're instantly jotting down your idea. Remember to call Jack a butthead. And these notes are also immediately synced to the cloud via Microsoft OneDrive. Although you do need to sign in once to the device to use that feature. I tried restarting and then clicking the button, but it just went to the login screen. So after you've logged in and it locks, you can use it no problem. Unfortunately, there isn't a way to attach the pen to the actual Surface. As I said, the type cover comes with a little adhesive loop that you can stick on, but it seems kind of flimsy, and I don't think I would trust it for full-time use. The whole time I was using it, I just kept it in my bag. Now, Microsoft went with N-Trig technology in the pen instead of Wacom, which was used for the previous Surface pens. That's because Wacom tech actually requires another sensor board beneath the touchscreen, and N-Trig doesn't, so they were able to make it thinner. That comes at a cost of only supporting 256 pressure levels as opposed to Wacom's 124. I'm not an artist by any means, but from what I've seen of other people using it, that change doesn't make a whole lot of difference because just like resolution, pressure level is just a number, guys, okay? Plus, my roommate was able to draw this fantastic image of Spider-Man scraping his bum on concrete with ease in Photoshop. He was definitely a fan of the pen. Now on to the type cover. The new type cover has hard illuminated keys like the last gen version, but this time they've added an extra section at the front that actually folds up to attach to the front of the Surface, like so, creating an angled keyboard that's more like a traditional laptop. It's actually kind of crazy the difference that makes. You're able to rest your hands on it at a comfortable angle. Now the typing experience is still somewhat subpar compared to a full keyboard, but it definitely helps to push the Surface more towards a genuine laptop replacement. I actually typed most of my notes for this episode on the type cover, and after my fingers acclimated toward it, I could almost say I enjoyed it. And that's saying something considering all of us in the studio here use mechanical keyboards of varying types. Ha! Types! Now the type cover also has a touchpad at the bottom, which I hear is better than the previous iteration, but I never used it, so I wouldn't know. The touchpad is a touchpad. It does the job, but I actually found that sometimes there was significant input lag. Scrolling would take a second to register, so I actually ended up using a combination of finger and pen input to navigate most of the time, and that felt cooler than a mouse anyways, because hey, that guy's got a pen. He must be creative. Unfortunately, this thing is an extra 130 bucks on top of the price of the Surface. Microsoft is marketing this as a laptop replacement, but the very thing that actually almost makes that true is not included. I'll talk more in a bit about how that's ridiculous, but let's move on. So the display, like I said, it's 12 inches diagonally with a resolution of 2160 by 1440. That's a weird resolution, Keys! An astute observation, weird voice guy. The Surface Pro 3 has an aspect ratio of 3.2, which is only shared by one other device that I could find, which is the 2013 Chromebook Pixel. Most laptops and monitors are 16 by 9, and iPads are 4 by 3. Microsoft said they went with this ratio because it's a nice compromise. It's a little shorter on the long side, so it's more comfortable to use in portrait mode, but it also works really well as a widescreen monitor. You get letterboxing watching HD video, but it's minimal compared to an iPad. Now, because it does have a QHD monitor, it is awesome for content consumption. Videos, games, it's good. But it was kind of annoying at first to use a bunch of other programs. For instance, I couldn't quite get text in Chrome to be at a comfortable size. And some programs, like Photoshop, have little or no options for scaling. It's just either regular or 200% zoom, which is just a little too big sometimes. A number of programs were also blurry at first when I first installed them, and I fixed that by right-clicking on the program's icon, clicking compatibility, then checking disable display scaling at high DPI settings. This is more of an issue with the industry right now that programs need to adapt to the growing presence of greater than 1080p monitors rather than an issue with the Surface itself. I mean, some things haven't even caught up with 1080p yet. Consoles! Now, I used this as my laptop/tablet for about a week and a half, and I gotta say, I enjoyed it. I ended up using the pen-finger combo most of the time, and thankfully, the pen is really a pleasure to use because, as I said, it just straight up feels like a pen. However, using any one control method exclusively can lead to problems, which is still sort of a problem with Windows 8. After using this as a laptop and a tablet, I can definitely see how the idea to separate touch-friendly Metro with the classic Windows desktop design came about. It makes sense in theory, and even in practice to a certain extent. Metro apps work best with touch, and classic Windows work best with a mouse or the pen. But if you have to switch between a Metro app and the desktop, the balance can break down, and that's where the real problem lies. And that's why power users have been really frustrated by Windows 8, including Wheels. But the good news is that upcoming updates for Windows 8.1 are apparently going to incorporate windowed Metro apps and other improvements for desktop users, so hopefully that helps. So, is the Surface worth it? Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed using this thing. It is impressive. I mean, the design is really great. I really like the idea of just one device in place of a laptop and tablet. I do video editing and other heavy stuff on my desktop, so the idea of having just one other device that I can use for both light work and entertainment is very appealing. But I don't know if the Surface is that device. It seems to be lacking a few things that would really make it awesome, like an included type cover. That is one of my biggest complaints with the Surface Pro 3 and with Microsoft's attitude in general about this stuff. This is an awesome product. It truly is. But then Microsoft goes and shoots itself in the foot by making the type cover cost extra. Because let's be serious, guys. If you're buying the Surface, you're probably going to buy a type cover. Otherwise, it's just a giant tablet. And you can get a smaller tablet that does a lot of the tablet type stuff a lot better. Now granted, there is the on-screen keyboard, and with the kickstand going all the way back, you can actually type at a comfortable angle while still seeing some of the screen. But that is no substitute, more of a last resort feature. AnonTech made this handy chart of the different versions of the Surface Pro 3, and in my opinion, if you're getting this to replace your laptop, the middle version, which is this version with the i5 CPU, 256 gig SSD, and 8 gigs of RAM, is a good middle of the road option. 4 gigs of RAM is just a little too small for Windows these days. Heck, a lot of tablets and phones are getting 3 gigs of RAM for Android, and I'm guessing the type of person to buy this kind of thing would be a power user, so you'll want decent specs. So this middle option is $1,299, $1,299. It's actually $1,349 in Canada, and if you're buying the type cover, which you probably would, as I said, that's another $130, so $1,430 for a tablet Ultrabook thing. There are a ton of Ultrabooks with better specs for cheaper, from Asus, Samsung, MSI, Acer. There's a bunch of them. I've linked a few in the description, as well as the Surface specs if you want to check them out. Bottom line here, guys, is that Microsoft has gotten closer than ever to fulfilling their dream of a tablet that can replace your laptop. And they almost hit it. Almost. Almost. You've got to bundle the keyboard with it. I mean, just stop the BS. Bundle the keyboard with it. And that keyboard and trackpad has to be functional enough to replace a full one. You've got to stop having hardware inconsistencies like a micro SD slot instead of a full one. All Ultrabooks that you buy nowadays have a full SD slot. You've got to further refine the Metro versus desktop conundrum and better optimize display scaling. I mean, don't get me wrong. This can get stuff done. I was impressed with it, but it's those little things that prevent me from giving it a full-on recommendation because there are still better options out there. Heck, I may even buy a MacBook or MacBook Air before I go in for this guy. Okay, where do you guys stand on this? Do you think the industry is ready for a complete tablet laptop replacement? Would you get a Surface 3? Leave a comment below. All right, that's all I got. I think these Unpacked episodes are getting longer and longer. Thanks for watching, guys. Like or dislike the video, whatever floats your boat, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this from NCIX. Plain